Hey guys, welcome back to some more AFK Arena. Today we're back over on the YouTube account, and it's kind of crazy to think that we are already going into October of 2025. Time has just been absolutely flying by, which means it's time for our October tier list. Now, overall, one hero that I did not include with the tier list is Garok. Now, right now, we are seeing him in one iteration of the Nightmare Corridor. He is not being used in the Treasure Scramble. We're not seeing him at all. Also, looking at the Curse Realm, we unfortunately are not seeing him in there at all. Now, he still is incredibly new, even though, as you've seen over on the test servers, we do have a new Celestial hero that is coming. And again, the timing of it is way off. And I think that's to get in the other two Awakened heroes in 2025 that they're really shooting for. So speculation is right now, as of today, we are going to see the next Awakened hero, also mixing in some possibly Draconic or Highborn Draconic heroes in there. So let's hop in, guys, because this tier list has gotten kind of crazy. And looking at the heroes that we have, even within the Resonating Crystal, we have 169 heroes in here. It's crazy how far this game has come. And of course, we did get the Awakened version of Scrath not too long ago. So let's hop over, guys, and we will take a look at this tier list in its entirety. So here we are on Tier Maker, just like we do every single month, and a couple of changes in here, a couple of updates with a few of the heroes that I want to cover. So we're going to do it just like we always do, guys. We're going to start in the top left, which is Envy. Envy is still used everywhere, best in slot in a lot of different formations as a damage dealer, is and can really carry once you start building out the signature item. We've seen it over on the free-to-play account, does incredibly well. Even when you get him at Mythic with the signature item, utility still kind of crazy, which is the same when it comes to Liberto. We're still seeing a ton of utility with the hero, especially because of the Orthos cheese that is still working in a lot of different game modes. So again, utility within really the Curse Realm and the Nightmare Corridor still being used, of course, still being used within some other formations. Then we look at Aurelia, which is another support hero, utility-wise, still in all of the formations. Even looking at right now, we have the Abyssal Expedition going on. The hero is used a crazy amount of places. Even thinking of the Temple Rift, again, another hero that is being used. So definitely utility is holding with Aurelia. Then we get into Demia. Again, another hero. Support hero has the ability to do damage in a couple formations. Also has the utility to keep the entire team alive. So when you have those squishier heroes in here, it definitely works incredibly well to have her. Still keeping her in that top SSS tier. Then we still do have Lan. Now, the good question is, with Lan being an older support hero, as we continue to get heroes 2025 into 26, I feel like Lan is going to slowly lose the position that she's in right now. And of course, being our first Highborn Draconic hero that we have in the tier list, we know overall the utility of these heroes just over time as we slowly get new heroes are replaced. And of course, Leviathan is the other one that has been kind of creeping up. We've seen him with his release, didn't know exactly where he was going to fit. Then he dropped into that SSS or that SS tier. Then he moved into that SSS, the top tier, and continues to see utility in every single game mode, which is very cool to see that we still are seeing the hero. Now, Lucilla is another one that we might see dropping down the tier list a little bit. And of course, we have seen the Awakened version of Athalia dropping down the tier list. Now, used to be #1 slot for a considerable amount of time, starting to again slowly move down the tier list. Then we have a secondary support hero with Misha, very strong with the defensive build on here. When you start looking at Iran, when you start looking at a lot of different heroes, works incredibly well in formations as support. Same with Lavatoon. I feel like, again, as we continue to get more heroes to AFK Arena, we could see some release on some of the new heroes, and they could essentially replace some of the older heroes we got, especially if they release like an Awakened support hero. We might see a change in the tier list pretty good. Now, looking at Randy, still again making a lot of utility within the game itself. I still use them, of course, #1 without a free-to-play account. But even thinking of what we have right now with the pay-to-win account, I'm still used in a lot of different places. Rimuru, the mage, that is still a buffer. Awakened version of Estrilda. Now, overall, we have seen her remain very high in the tier list because she kind of plays a dual role. Some of it is the shielding aspect and the healing aspect, and it also is dependent. Some of the formations are dependent on the boss and how the actual boss works within formations. Some formations, she is also the best in slot damage dealer. So again, a very interesting build in here. Then we have Palmer, very strong with Lightbearer support, but even outside of the Lightbearer formation, does incredibly well. And it seems a lot of places that as we start seeing Palmer get a little bit older within formations, it seems like Jerome has been replacing a lot of places where Palmer was very dependent or very prevalent within AFK Arena. Now, Talmar making it into this SS tier, I am starting to see her in a lot of different formations. Even looking at the Awakened version of Scrath, we are seeing this hero used in a lot of different iterations, a lot of different formations, especially when it comes to having the ability to buff, having the ability to offer some crowd control, all around a lot of utility. And like we've said before, with a lot of the newer heroes in AFK Arena, they are giving them a lot of kind of support abilities in there, not only as support heroes, but as mages, as warriors, as tanks. In addition to that, a lot of heroes are also getting active abilities and passive abilities. So they're almost getting two abilities mixed in one, where a passive will be running all the time based on skills and abilities. And then the active is triggered usually by a certain circumstance or by the ultimate ability itself. Now, Shuna still remains incredibly versatile, a lot of utility within a lot of formations. Same with Velfiora. Now, of course, this is a regular Draconic hero, not the Highborn variant. And utility-wise, as support, does require a pretty decent build-out, but still does work incredibly well. Also seeing Ivan now, the considerable in the iterations that we're running right now within the Cursed Realm, we know he does have a skin. A lot of whales are still running him within formations, and bringing energy, bringing everything that he does work incredibly well in a lot of formations. And also with the Awakened version of Leica, I feel like we have seen a little bit of a comeback in some of the formations that we've seen with her. Again, as kind of the dynamic, as the metas do kind of shift, when you're looking at having, 5, 6, 7 different teams, heroes like this, the utility is kind of still there. Palmer, again, utility coming down a little bit. But overall, if you don't have Jerome built, Palmer still does work incredibly well. Nox, same with the Awakened version of Thorin, still a absolute vital team when it comes to the Treasure Scramble, and probably one of, if not the best teams within the Treasure Scramble. Still incredibly high and very difficult to counter, to kill Nox out when you have him built. Same with Thorin. When you're running the Slumbering Seal in there, it works super well, and we continue to see this work incredibly well. Now, some heroes, though, just like Thorin, is the place where they really drop, or why they're not in this SSS tier, is when it comes to the Nightmare Corridor. With the Nightmare Corridor, battles are running, 7 seconds, 5 seconds, 15 seconds. Overall, a lot of utility out of like a Nox, or even out of the Awakened version of Thorin. Doesn't have enough time to really amp up and do anything. That is true the same with the Awakened version of Scrath, because he comes into battle 7 seconds later. Utility-wise, not going to have any place in the Nightmare Corridor that I can see in the future, just for the fact of how he works. Some of the battles are almost over or completely over before he even comes into battle. Now, Zora is another one within the iteration we're running right now, still best in slot damage dealer. And of course, with damage dealers, you do have to build them out a little bit higher, so you do get that high-end damage. Big buffer right in here with Sun Jin Woo. A lot of players still kind of disappointed with the crossover. I know myself personally, I thought Shahan was going to be really strong. Not seeing a ton of utility with her, and actually seeing a lot more utility out of like a Marseille than we are seeing with Shahan. Again, a lot of players were thinking that, looking at the divine power that she has doing all the damage, didn't really scale as much as players were thinking. Marseille still super broken, and Marseille, of course, being run with Laios, working incredibly well in a lot of different formations. Now, Skylin is another one. Interesting when you get multiple targets in there, doing really a crazy amount of AoE damage. Still seeing, again, the hero utility within Treasure Scramble and a couple other places. And honestly, looking at Halia, this is one that I've had to merc a couple times, because she is being run in a couple formations, which is interesting because she's kind of a secondary damage dealer. I haven't seen her as a primary one, but still does work incredibly well. Scion still working incredibly well in formations. On the other hand, because it is a substitution, if you don't have Skylin, most of the substitution is either going to be Scion, or it is going to be the Awakened version of Iran, depending on exactly what you're running. Because unfortunately for me, I do not have Skylin. But again, that is a hero that I merc on a regular basis to really have that utility. Marseille, this is one I know players are just dying to get into the garrison, because if you did not get Marcial, if you did not build her, she is best in slot in a lot of formations and doing a crazy amount of burst damage. And of course, just utility wise for her, having the ability to buff herself and then receive buffs from the rest of the formation does work incredibly well. Now, Aethys, again, another one that we see a ton of utility as a tank. Then we have Lysander. So this little guy, Lysander, came out of the gate. Nobody used him. Nobody cared about him anywhere. Now it seems like he is being used everywhere in all the formations. Shot him from really down in that A tier up to that SSS tier. Having him built out, I am seeing him in a lot of iterations. Even though it did take him a little while to find a place within AFK Arena, it seems like he has really found it. Then we have Rem, still the good old go-to. Again, damage is a little bit lower scale just for where she's at with the power creep. But if you're looking at a hero to garrison, still does work incredibly well. And I did build Shahan on the free-to-play, and I still do have Rem. Between both of them, Rem is still outperforming Shahan in similar or same formations. Still, Rem seems to be the go-to when Shahan is really not pulling the weight, or she dies a little bit earlier, is what we're seeing. Now, Naruko, this is another one. Tiny tank, I feel like, is going to be coming down the tier list. Same with Amelia coming down the tier list. Laios still having a lot of utility as a support hero. Same, similar to Sun Jin Woo, where we're seeing specific formations where the hero is being used and does work incredibly well. Now, the Awakened version of Shmira, again, another one I feel like is starting to lose a lot of ground. Awakened version of Skarath, which is, of course, is one of the newest heroes we have in AFK Arena, being run right now within Treasure Scramble, being run right now within that Cursed Realm. But again, Nightmare Corridor, his skill set, his kit, really doesn't make sense to put in there with the delay. Does not work incredibly well. Now, the Awakened version of Iran, again, starting to see him showing up as some of the best in damage formations as a damage dealer. So very interesting that we've seen it. Saramira is another one that does work incredibly well within burst comps. If you have a longer duration, unfortunately, it really doesn't work, which is going to be interesting because with the new Celestial we're getting, if she works incredibly well, because we know it's a burst hero that is being released. Yavas still has that mitigation, still has the survivability. Shahan, again, a little bit of a disappointment from the hero itself. I was hoping there'd be a lot more utility, and maybe we'll see it in the future. If we kind of backtrack even a couple years where we had like Joker and Queen, Joker out of the gate was doing incredibly well. Then Queen was the ultimate one that we used for an extended amount of time. And it could be the same as we're seeing these crossovers in really all of these heroes. So getting into the S tier, I'm going to go through this a little bit quicker because I know most of the top tier heroes that you're looking for. Vithiel is actually the sub in here for Halia. So I do sub in Vithiel for a couple different places. Still does work fundamentally, still does work very well. Adrian and Elise, I feel like we're kind of replacing them in formations. Don't see a lot of utility out of there. Now, the Awakened version of Sophia, Sophia, this is one that we've actually seen getting a little bit more leeway or legway up. We've seen a little bit more utility. I don't know if it's very short-lived or maybe the resurgence of the Awakened version of Skarath. We're going to have to see and kind of track exactly where she goes. And then we also do have Hildwyn. This, of course, was the Highborn Draconic hero. They gave us for free. Damage mitigation really big. Starting to see Lucius used a little bit less. Unfortunately, Belinda is a little bit older. Tricia in the Baden formation still being used. Nile, even the Draconic version of Gwen, they're showing up every now and then kind of in a niche formation. Tamaris, the Enthusiasm buff, again, kind of niche here and there. Kaelin or Kelton, not used again a lot. Alvita, the exact same. And even looking at Keelan down here, I know right now, I believe best in slot in one formation for damage. So just one specific boss as it rotates through the formation. Might see it kind of used kind of less and less. Now, Alna still does have a use. Even looking at right now in the Challenger store, this is the number one you want to buy because of the ability to keep like a Rem alive, or even looking at Lucius, looking at Iran, having the ability to have that 9 of 9 furniture on Alna and actually give it to the other hero that is opposed or the front line, to her giving them the survivability is really still kind of broken and still a cheese if you want to make campaign formations and go ahead and make progression. Now, the rest of these kind of used in a couple different places in the tower, not seeing a lot of utility really in AFK Arena. And then as you continue down the tier list again, we're not seeing a majority of these heroes short of possibly used in the towers. Even looking at like Umbreon right here, again, is another hero that I feel like never really found a spot. The original version of Tailene still being used every now and then. Even Thane seems to pop up in a rare formation every now and then. But the rest of these are going to be heroes you'll eventually build some of them for tower formations. For a majority of them, you'll never see and you'll never use, just because at this point, a lot of these heroes are 6+ years old, which is kind of crazy thinking that April, so in about what, another 6-7 months, will be the 7th anniversary of AFK Arena, which is going to be kind of crazy. And again, a lot of these heroes are either one-hit wonders like a Brutus or like a Nara, or you're just not going to see them at all, especially because a majority of the older crossover heroes, you're not going to be looking in the garrison or using them with really anything of that nature. So it is going to be just kind of the heroes that we're sitting on right now that we're going to be seeing in AFK Arena. All right, guys, so that is going to do it for today's video. I know Garok, we're going to have to see exactly where and if he's being used, and also the new hero that is going to be coming down the pipeline. So, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think, and as always, thank you guys for watching.